you simply wish to make a healing request, please type into the chat room on wolfspiritradio.com with the name of the person, the location, and the condition that the person needs healing. You're listening to Wolf Spirit Radio. So welcome to Healings and Meditations with the Earth Healers Group, Universal Mind Radio, and Frank Jordan. Hi Frank, how are you doing?
Good evening. Well, as usual, we're very pleased to be here, and we have new information to share. And I'm glad to see that Mike is here too, up and present, because he sent out some information this past week on Kate of Gaia. Can you give us any more background about this, Mike, of who this fellow is and what his focus is and everything?
Well, I'll try and make it quick and dirty. Maybe JP knows some too. This guy, he's okay.
We know
First of all, he's transsexual. Call him him, her, whatever you want. Sorry, JP, what did you say?
We refer to her as a she. But,
yes. No offense intended either way, yeah. So she, she's got a very unique perspective, has done a lot of research on language phonetics, the big fraud. My understanding is I think she's originally from Ireland, UK someplace. And but she's reached the conclusion that here's the crux of the matter. There's no nations, there's no real boundaries, there's no countries. That there's the Crown in the city of London, which is a city-state. Basically, all the insiders are members of the middle Crown bar. So the parasites, as she calls them, are attorneys, judges, office holders, things like that, and they're really powerless. They're just faking power through their dead paper fictions. And the crux of the matter is there are only two jurisdictions. The Crown, which is really false and fake, and us, who are essentially all of us together, the God-force presence of humanity on the earth. I just think that's fair, JP?
Yeah, that'll do. Pretty well nutshelled there, Mike.
And so if you refuse to accept their fictitious legal name, it completely throws them into a quandary. They have no power. Their false money systems and everything else are exposed for what they are, which is just pure bald face, manipulation, and it's all just a big sideshow. So I'll let it go at that unless there are other specific questions. I'm not an expert. I just ran across this. She appeared on Angela Stark's talk show, I think on the 17th, which is a real good one. And then, Angela just did a simulcast also with, New York, and, there were 2 or 3 other blog talk artists on there, and Kate was the primary speaker, and that one was real revealing too.
Well, I've been working my way through these treatises that he's written here, and I'm just amazed at the basic pure truth that underlies what this person expresses. It is really lays the foundation for what we are working towards, which is dominion in all things.
We're kind of behind him in certain ways. I mean, the other thing I would just caution quickly, and then I'll shut up and let you go, Frank, is that I think the paper articles have been written over a period of time, and that there's, what I can tell, she's really, gone through a huge transformation over that period of time. So the earlier stuff may be a little bit, you have to kind of take into context how long it's been since those were written and what sort of a transformation process is going on.
Well, it's like anything, any information comes into our awareness. We want to look at it for the truths that resonate with us. because everyone has a different perspective and a different approach to life and experience and the fundamental principles of what life is or how we experience life. And so anyone else's truth may be perfectly abundantly exactly what they need, but it may not fit with your particular situation in life, what you're trying to achieve or what you're here to learn in your soul path. And so everything, I mean everything needs to be taken not necessarily with a grain of salt, but with a dose of Tabasco, so it stimulates you and allows you the opportunity to examine it, to see how it fits with you, to see if you can digest it or not. And so, but what I did, what hooked me this morning, or I guess it was yesterday after we, on Saturday when we did the World Healers Group session, we were having a discussion in the stellar group, and what we got into was how what you express and think and do, how that is important that is to the reality you create and how your whole system responds. And so I'd like to bring that back tonight because we decided it would be an excellent topic just for self-learning and to help people learn how to adjust to whatever is right for them. And I'd like to read you the first paragraph that Kate of Gaia wrote in this one dissertation called Hooked by Phonics. As you suggested, it is greatly involved in word structure and what words mean and the frequency of words. And so here it is. We are many things. We are what we eat, what we think, what we do, and what we say. It doesn't take an expert to know that if we eat poison foods, we in turn are poisoned, and our bodies have a constant uphill battle merely to stay alive. In this way, we tax our own bodies by our own consent. It can also be agreed that if we have constantly negative, less than wholesome thoughts, we also manifest that in our day-to-day attitudes. This is what separates the victims from the victors. Our actions most certainly speak volumes because they are the manifestation of our thoughts, brought forth in the visible light spectrum where most of our focus lies. Then there is the matter of what we speak, how we speak, and the vibrations that are emitted forth into the seen and unseen universes. It is this I wish to speak on mostly because the entirety of universes are created in the energy of sound waves, even visible light, which is only a higher vibration of sound. How many times have you said something to someone only to be completely misunderstood in the intent of what they were trying to say? Such are the limitations of language. And in those limitations, many tricks can be played. How often have you found yourself in a mindless debate where the one you're talking to has taken what you said in the wrong manner and you spend hours trying to fully explain it to them? Well, it goes on in that manner, and I would highly recommend this series of dissertations by Hank of Gaia. Hank, I don't know why I'm calling it Kate.
I love that.
But I'm sure you can find it on the internet, and it's just good information that you can internalize and download and work with. And with that thought in mind is how we create our reality by what we think and what we express. That gets back to what I've maintained all the time ever since we developed the clearing the way processes, that we absolutely, in our subconscious mind, download everything we experience and everyone who resonates consciousness to us in seen and unseen ways. Our system just downloads it into this incredible biocomputer we have. And whether our focus is on high self, above the heart, our positive, creative, evolving spiritual side of nature, whether we are expressing from that side or from patterns and programs in the low self, which is primarily been patterned and programmed in the survival stages of domination in the last 26,000 years and passed along from one generation to the next. It's exactly how we come to our own self-perception is by what we think, how we internalize, and what we express. So some of you had some beautiful things to say Saturday. Could you come through and begin to express yourselves now on that?
I'm going to tell a story of what I'm doing right now. As everybody's talking, I'm eating an apple that my sister has just picked off of our neighbor's tree with his permission. And he doesn't spray his apple, so it's, you look through to see what you want to eat. And I cut it, and I washed it, and I'm eating it. I'm going, boy, this really tastes good. What is it that tastes so good about it? And I go, it really tastes like an apple. And then it dawned on me that it went from the tree branch in my sister's hand, which she's a loving person, into her bag, here into my hand. And so it didn't pick up anything derogatory on its journey to my mouth. And I wonder if that plays at all with everything that's being discussed.
Well, that's a beautiful thought, all right. How we can share positive, uplifting, nurturing information as well as physical things. Anyone else, any comments on how we create a reality by what we express and say?
Well, who hasn't experienced a bellyache or indigestion after arguing at the dinner table? Raise your hands, please.
Very true.
Thanksgiving, anyone?
I can share an example from yesterday. I was at a psychic fair. I was doing readings on people. And I had a Japanese woman come to me that had been a translator for 15 years for a Hawaiian kahuna on the island here. And these people from Japan would come over and he would work healings on them and she would translate for him. And after 15 years, she finally retired from this. And she came in and she came up to me and she says, I'm really having a hard time getting into a higher dimension. I just can't go anywhere. And so I was dowsing her and clearing her of different things. But the main thing was this. I said, you have to get your power back. And she couldn't do it, Frank. She's so programmed from the Japanese culture that I sat there for 20 minutes with her, and every time she would begin to think about getting her power back, she would say, I can't do this. It's all my responsibility. It was like, I'd never seen anybody so programmed from a group consciousness as this woman. Finally, she just left and went home.
Well, that's an excellent example about how much of our world functions is by being submissive to the supposed powers, whether they're governmental, family power, or kingdoms, or religions, or whatever. We've been programmed for centuries to be submissive, and that's exactly what Kate of Gaia expresses in his writings, is how we really don't have any personal power, and our whole function and purpose for being here is to reclaim our personal power. And what we're speaking of, for those of you who may not know the work that we do with the clearing the way techniques, and Rich is a master of that now, and in his work he's doing these readings and healings and whatnot, is that our primary focus is self-realization, to help people clear the blocks and programs and the limitations that have been imposed upon us and that we've downloaded simply to get along and be accepted in society. Because if we came out here and as rebels and expressed a lot of negative potentials or actions or choices that may be contrary to whatever the flow is of our acknowledged civilization, then we're immediately branded as outlaws and terrorists and cast from the group. And the very first thing we learn in childhood is how to fit in, how to fit into the family, first of all, then into school, and into church, and into the military, into the government, into the workforce, how to fit. And that fit has been very carefully programmed to limit our personal thinking, our personal power. Because we wouldn't make very good slaves and workers if every one of us was expressing our own freedoms of thought and individually and our creativity. And so, even though it is the few who step out on their own and acknowledge their personal power that do climb to the top and rise into all of these organizations and whatnot, but they do it within the within the structure of and form of the reality that they choose to express themselves in. And so, any thoughts on that? How do we free ourselves up and express ourselves and still have our personal power?
This is Teresa. I've had a couple of discussions on that very topic, and it amazes me how we fall into those traps. And one of the insights I had was in reference to what I refer to as a default. And we have defaults in our actions, our language, how we feel or how we respond in life. And rather than using creative words to sculpt new ideas or expressions, we sometimes fall into words that come out of our mouth that are not even our own. They've been there for years. They're patterned. They just pop out of our mouth. And for example, beliefs. We look in the mirror and sometimes we look at ourselves and go, oh, and it's kind of a negative default and go, oh, I'm not this and I'm not that, or I am this and I am that. Or I'm too fat, I'm too skinny, I'm too ugly. Everybody hates me, nobody likes me. I sit in the garden eating worms, but it's patterns that we think that belong to us, but really and truly they don't belong to us at all. And an example I had one time was I have meditation classes I hold, and a lady was visiting, and I stumbled on a tile on my kitchen floor. It was only a tiny bit higher than the rest of the tiles, and I jarred my foot, and I hurt my back. And I was kind of leaning over my kitchen sink, catching my breath, and without missing a beat, she said, "What did you do that for? Pick up your feet." And I felt it was like an attack. And I asked her, I said, "Why did you say that?" And she said, "Oh, it didn't mean anything." And I said, "Well, it did mean something. Why did you say it?" "Well, I don't know. My mother always said it. And I hate when my mother would say that." And I asked her, "Well, why did you say it if it's something you hate?" And she said, "I don't know." And it really kind of inspired me to look at those words that pop out of our mouth without thought. And they're programmed defaults. We fall back into them. They tend to be negative. And one of the joys of using the clearing the way techniques is when we do catch ourselves in those default words, it's a beautiful time to say, hey, I can clear this. I can relieve myself of this burden that doesn't belong to me. I don't need it. And using the techniques in the clearing the way and the meditations that we do regularly, it's not it's no difficulty to just jot it down to remember, so that when you come back to it, you can work on that. And sometimes during the course of a day, I've edited my own version of clearing the way, and I'll use it when those things come up. And sometimes things will pop up, and I'm sure everybody listening in will have things that pop up. Something happened 25 years ago, 30 years ago, and it's like, oh, why is this still bothering me? Well, I don't know, but I'm going to clear it. And when you do clear it, the memory is vaguely there, but the emotion is clear. And when you're doing the clearing, you can also ask for that karmic attachment, if there was any, to be cleared too, and be free of that. And I think that the more we clear, the more, I mean, I think it's kind of a pun, but maybe that's why we're called light workers. We get lighter. We're like, we float away like with little balloons, you know. So the comment essentially cycles down to that the default of our actions, our words, and beliefs.
What about default feelings?
Well, emotions, feelings. Mm-hmm.
Well, that comes down to if I have a mantra, it's that our whole function is to create our reality instead of being subjective to one that has been created for us. And that expresses very well, Teresa, that whole philosophy, what the clearing the way techniques developed, and those evolved because I was looking for the mental emotional cause of physical problems in people that I was healing 30 years ago. And I quickly learned it wasn't enough just to clear the physical expression of what their problem was, no matter what the illness or diagnosis was. We had to clear the mental, emotional pattern of it that it was in the subconscious mind, because that just simply kept returning the pattern, the block, the shock, the trauma, and bringing it up and acting as an attractant to keep recycling the same type of situation again and again and again. But if we cleared that base pattern, then the person was freed up to create their reality instead of being subjective to it. And so that's basically what we've been doing for 30 years, and it's gotten now to where we can extend this out not only just in our own personal physical reality, but into helping to raise the consciousness of the whole world.
You know how you were explaining that, Frank and Teresa, it came to me that when those things take up home in your body, it's like they become a magnet. So all of that particle of distension, or, you know, what you don't like, is attracted to that magnet. So, you know, how like attracts light. And that's what it does. It just comes in because it's like you're a homing beacon.
That's exactly correct. Not only the things you express, but the people you choose to associate with hold us in a group mind consciousness of various patterns, and that it's an unfortunate thing that we are attracted to people that are carrying the same negativity we are, because you create a common comfort zone with people like that. Go to any bar, any of you who have done your clearing work and evolved, and walk in and sit down in any bar in town, and it doesn't take you long to become very uncomfortable. You just don't fit in anymore, like you may have fit 30 years ago when you were young and experiential, trying to figure out what life was like. And so that's just expresses the commonality of how like attracts like.
And I've also noticed, actually, I helped a lady the other night with a clearing, and she had permission from her son to help work on him. And I said, hey, I've got time. Let's do a clearing for you. And I just asked her, what is the one thing that bugs you, that may have bugged you for a very long time, and just keeps popping up, and it kind of colors your whole world. And it was a topic between her and her mother, something that was not resolved. And it reminded me of having a toy balloon filled with air, and you push it down in the water, and then the deeper it goes, the harder it is to hold it there. And when you let it go, it just comes up like a rocket. But it's always on the surface. And so those type of patterns that we have of ourselves, those ones that are right on the surface, are the ones that we can look at first and clear first. And, we're kind of like little filters in the universe, and those little bits that are stuck in our filter are, they worm their way to the surface, and we just have to dust them off. And there's no great, light show when this happens, but it sure feels great when we do clear it.
Have you noticed how, no matter where you are out in the world and how distant your personal family is, your sisters and brothers and parents and uncles and aunts and people of your name vibration, when you get back together for family gatherings, no matter how far you've evolved or what you're doing, you tend to fall right back automatically into the slot that they see you as. The way they've last saw you and perceived you and fixed you in your mind.
I know.
Isn't it amazing how you fit right back into that form again of meeting their expectations?
And then when you change in a different conversation, like bring them up to speed where you are, all they hear is up, 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 right? And then they go into default, and there is a sense of shunning. It's very bizarre.
Mm-hmm. Well, also, if you're in a family that they do argue or have very loud discussions, and you don't partake as you used to, they all look at you oddly.
True.
Well, you had some wonderful expressions about this very topic in relation to your family in Argentina. Would you like to share with us?
You mean I still have to call them family? I thought they were just a bunch of strangers I was born amongst. Well, looking back and contemplating everything you've told, I firmly believe one of the things that Andrew Barsis has been said, that part of the subversion of the whole incarnation system is that we've been blocked from being born amongst our soul family, because when you are with two or more of your soul family, your power is incredible. So purposely, even though many times you get to choose the people you're going to be born amongst, many times that plan gets sabotaged and you're born, far from where you should be. So you're in a disempowering place. The people that are your biological family, so to speak, are not supportive of you in any way, shape, or form, because they're in a totally different reality, totally different frequency, and you grow up being the weird one in the family. I mean, that's our label amongst these biologicals. Me and my mom, we're the weird ones because we don't act like them. We don't believe in hypocrisy. We don't believe in saying the opposite of what we feel. So we are the weird ones. So I said to my mom, "Oh, so they're the normal ones? Lying to your face and smiling to your face and then criticizing you behind your back, that's supposed to be normal, acceptable?" So I mean, considering what we are, infinite immortal beings that have been traveling through the universe since before the creation of time, it is what it is. It's just a sideshow that we are enjoying this time around, but nothing to be attached to. Earlier, when you were talking about all these default programs and default ways of speaking, it reminded me of two things that we've discussed before. One, you can't heal somebody that doesn't want to be healed. And number two is, when healing a person entails getting them to surrender or give up or transmute some of those default programs, some of those default ways of expressing themselves, oh my God, you'd be better off dragging a horse to water than trying to attempt that, because my experience has been that people are so attached to that identity, how they speak, how they think. It's so much them that the very thought or idea of changing how they see something or how they speak is just horrifying. I mean, you have to be faced with a person that truly, willingly, from the depth of their heart, they need to make this change because they realize that whatever they're doing isn't working. Then yes, you will see someone who will make the effort. Others, no, that's them. You're asking them to kill themselves. You're asking them to give up everything they are.
They're going into the default of fear.
Correct. You have to, instead of telling them, no, you're not going to disintegrate, you're not going to disappear, you just give them the alternative. You're going to be better. You're going to be more of what you are. You're going to be better. You're going to be stronger. You're going to be able to get rid of the stuff that you don't like. Because don't tell them to give up, without giving them an alternative, because that's, psychological death.
Rich has a really great story about changing soul families.
Oh, he changed the basic self on a person. I wonder how that turned out.
Hey, Rich,
what did I do?
Do you remember the story you told us when you were clearing, you were crossing souls over, and they were samurai swordsmen, I believe, and you said you almost fell off your chair?
Well, yeah. Well, Frank and I, we were working together years ago when I was doing a past life reading, and I was talking to him about wanting to be a healer. And I still couldn't understand why I was doing martial arts at age 60 years old, but I didn't even really enjoy it. And so we did this past life deal, and I went back and I found myself as a samurai. And I went back and turned the sword back in. Well, back in time, in that culture, when you're 6 or 7, that's when you choose who you're going to follow or what you're going to do. So at that time, I was offered either a cloak to be a healer, or a sword, or a plow to be a farmer, and I chose the sword. So I went back in time to that point, and I gave him back the sword and took the cloth and says, okay, I don't want to do this anymore, fight. I want to do this healing. And from that moment on, I never had any desire to do martial arts again. It was history. It didn't even exist for me. It was a complete shift. And that was the beginning of really understanding how we're products of our past lives. And then recently I had this really interesting reading at Doreen Virtue's thing where we spent 3 days and basically we did readings on other people. And I sat next to a lady that was Japanese that didn't speak hardly any English. And I think I mentioned to you that I went down to Earthmind to her ancestors, my ancestors. They were both, that was one of those soul groups that were Japanese. And I was able to communicate and understand what her name meant. Her name was Chiko, which meant beloved in Japanese. And I started conveying information to her about this. And I guess I'm getting off track, but anyway, I found it extremely interesting that we have the ability to tie into those past lives, and we're still influenced by them if we want to be. It's remarkable how when I go out to cross souls over, each soul group that comes to me has its own personality based upon the group consciousness. If they're low souls, it's the group consciousness of Earthline that they're still identifying themselves as. And either Hawaiian, Japanese, Chinese, Portuguese, Caucasian, or whatever, they all have their own distinct personalities. So what I'm learning about now is how important it is to understand who we are. Like the clearing away process of self-realization, learning who we really are as souls, and then deciding who do we want to be. Out of all these past life experiences we've had, we can really basically choose what we want to do. We can actually tune into the thinking, like I was with an Asian lady from Japan yesterday. I was able to tune into her and understand how difficult it was for her to want to ask her father for her power back. It's a cultural, ingrained, subconscious thing that she just couldn't fathom the idea that she could have the power to do that. And it just blew me away. It really helped me understand how powerful everything that we're saying today, it all goes back to group consciousness.
It's interesting, Rich, because you did plant the seed in her that it will be curious to see if she comes back for help willingly.
Well, I told her, she says, I'll go home and work on this. I said, it's your choice. It's your choice. I'm not telling you have to do anything. You could just remain the way you are if you want. That's fine. There's nobody out there in the universe that's going to tell you that you have to change. It's your choice. All I'm trying to do is empower you to become the woman that you want to be. And I've explained to you why you don't have the power. And you have the power if you desire it and want it. You can do it. But you have to believe. It's like Walt said, if somebody doesn't want to be healed, it's easier to drag a horse to water than it is to try to get somebody to do it. It's just, they're not going to do it. Or they won't be healed. If they don't believe they're going to be healed, and they don't want to be healed, you might as well just go fishing.
If you have any doubts, anyone, that it is impossible for you to change your complete self-perception and the whole structure and reality and acknowledgement of who you are, I'd like to point out Rich as a living example of that. When Rich first came to me, 3 years ago or so, he had been a Christian minister for 16 years, I believe it was, and he's a master in the martial arts. And he'd done everything he could possibly do, even gone to England India to be a healer over there. And when he came to me, he was the most frustrated person because none of this stuff got him into the true light. And so rather than meeting him head on, which I was afraid I was going to have to do when he first walked in the door, because the first thing he told me that he was a master of martial arts, and by God, if I was going to heal him, I'd have to fight him. And he didn't say it that way, but it was just, he was so aggressive, it was like, fix me if you can, smart ass. And so the first thing we did was just start helping to deprogram these attitudes and things. And within a matter of, probably 3 to 4 months, he'd done a 180-degree turn in his personality and character traits, his spirituality, true spirituality, which he discovered was within himself and not out there somewhere. And his ability to heal and understand through the clearing the way techniques how things worked. That's when he began to come into the self-realization that this is what he'd been frustrated all this lifetime in, is just finding the understanding of who he really was and how to express himself, and that incredible gifts and abilities that he has in the psychic abilities and everything, as well as spiritual knowledge. And it just keeps coming through for him. It just amazes me how every time he gets on here, he's relating new things that are happening to him. And that's what happens to everyone who really gets on this path of self-clearing and self-realization, is you've already got it all. It's just a matter of deprogramming what you are not to discover what you are.
Well, that's the challenge about, I guess that's one of the reasons why I'm so intrigued in crossing souls over, because can you imagine that you finally reach 6 or 7 years old, and you go to first grade, and the first day in first grade, you die, and you have to stay in first grade for the next 1,000 years, and you have to repeat the same class over and over and over and over and over, and you never get a chance where everybody else has already done it 10 times, and you're still stuck in first grade, first day class. And that's I guess that's the most intriguing thing about crossing souls over that keeps me motivated to do this, is the fact that the consciousness of so many souls have been prevented from moving on. And it's just, I feel so sorry for them, because you and I have this wonderful opportunity to grow and to nurture and to have these discussions like this and to learn. And what are they doing? They're stuck in a little vacuum of time, reliving some stupid event that happened to them 2 or 3 or 4,000 years ago at some time, where they've been killed time over time. And it's like, whoa, is it really possible that the human consciousness can be trapped like that? And the answer is yes. And it just absolutely blows my mind to think that there's millions of souls wandering this earth that don't have a chance to evolve and be like we are. But they will if we free them. And it just boggles my mind. So, we all have our evolutionary cycles, but I mean, when you're dealing with, the other day I was crossing over a soul group that right now when I go into areas, they're showing me what the place was like in 1400 or 1500. I just literally can see what a village was like on the ocean. I was at McKenna State Park, and now it's just the dirt road going down to the beach. And back in the 1500s, this place was a beautiful village. It had a whole bay full of boats. It had a running stream running through it, and all these people were living in harmony. They were growing their sweet potatoes. They were catching their fish. I mean, it was a wonderful environment. It was a little small group of 1,000 souls that lived in this area. And I got a chance to see all of that before I crossed the soul group over. And it just blew my mind as to how we're evolving from one group to the next. And we get to choose soul groups. So, we've been Polynesian or Japanese or Chinese or European. We can change soul groups to experience a whole new life ahead of us. So this earth is an incredible learning field for our souls. If we can just get to the point of self-realization, we can tap into all of this information that we've accumulated and put it together and teach other people and educate other people about who they are and to radically change the consciousness of people. And that's why I'm so excited that this little group we have here has so much understanding compared to a lot of other people. Because I'm working with psychics now. Yesterday, everybody I worked on had psychic. They were all healers. Mm-hmm. And go ahead.
Well, you are in exactly the right spot, the melting pot of the world, and in cross cultures there, to learn about how the different race and ethnic groups and soul groups interact and participate in creation of reality. I remember the first time I went to Hawaii. We were invited there to speak to a science of my group, and we were there about a week, and we worked with at least 40 people doing healing work. But it always evolves down to more clearing work than healing work. The healing is nothing once the clarity is there to get to the mental emotional cause. But what struck me was that virtually every person that came in was of a different race or a mixture of races or something, and it was the greatest education I ever had of having to shift and adapt to the inner soul consciousness of these race mind groups that I was working with there. And here you see this every day in the different attitudes, the way they're programmed, how they think, how they perceive things. And so with every one of those, I'd have to shift and adapt and work at finding the solution to their problem through their eyes and their society. And it's absolutely amazing.
I had yesterday a Hawaiian lady, and then I had a Japanese lady, and then I had a lady that's from Peru. And she's going to come to my class this Wednesday night, and I'm going to start teaching her. And then the Hawaiian lady, she's going to come because, even though she does Reiki. Everybody on this island does Reiki, okay? It's kind of like they do massages and Reiki, and that's just kind of given. But they don't understand the stuff that we do. And so when teaching them the basics, it's really interesting how they perceive things. I had a lady in here. She's from Barbados. She's a black woman that speaks with an English accent. She's incredibly intelligent. She picked up on what I was talking about instantly, and her father, she came for a reading, and her father showed up an hour before. He had just died in Barbados, and he knocked over the pans out of my drain. My wife says, "What's going on?" The pots fell off the counter. I said, "Well, there's got to be somebody in the house because that doesn't happen." Sure enough, this guy shows up, and he had just died, and he went to talk to his daughter. And she comes in, and I said, "Well, your father is here, not physically, but in spirit form." And she starts smiling. She goes, "Well, I know he was going to die, and I'm so happy he's finally in his soul is at peace." I was blown away at someone like this that came in and sat down in front of me, and I started channeling with her father's soul, and he was telling her, "Don't forget the lessons I taught you as a young woman," because she'd just gone through a relationship with some guy. It was like he was teaching her, and she was understanding the whole deal. So it's like, yeah, I'm really blessed with the opportunity to meet such a variety of different kinds of people here.
Well, we have another world traveler healer too with us, and that's Yvonne in New Zealand, whose origin is out of Ireland. Yvonne, do you have anything to contribute to this discussion?
Hello. I don't know how good my sound will be because I'm in a busy cafe, but I didn't want to miss you. I've just had an incredible weekend. It was called the Cosmic Forest Festival, and it was held in Coromandel, New Zealand, in a beautiful location. And they put out the advertising that this was, it wasn't just a rave, it wasn't just a regular 3 days of dancing and raving and being ecstatic. This was about awakening, and that they had healers available. I was there doing workshops, and that they had meditation. And so, of course, when you put out what you want, guess what? All these young, awakening, beautiful beings, the new race, it was absolutely, almost everyone was awake in consciousness, and everyone was in the love vibration. And the reports back, of them continuing that and loving vibration was quite incredible. Very little alcohol, very little drugs, just amazing that the new race is here, and they're leading us. They're leading the way. And just with the slightest, tiniest touch of clearing, they were in their perfection. So I'm really grateful, and I've just come from there and didn't want to miss your broadcast. So apologies that I'm in a busy cafe, but wonderful stuff, and nice to bring some of your techniques, Frank, and the simplicity of just asking for clearing and it being given, and then the person being able to walk into their destiny. Thank you.
Well, I think of all people, you can recognize the oneness that underlies the consciousness of all souls, no matter who they are, even no matter what their social or ethnic programming has been. And it sounds to me like that's what you're reaching to there in that mixed race people that you've been involved there with, is you're finding the commonality, that the spiritual quality that underlies all the dynamics of their social programming. Isn't that right?
Yes. If we stay in the loving vibration ourselves when we do the healing, that's what's reflected back to us. So that's I guess I sort of learned that well when I worked with horses for a couple of years, that if I was a tool in any fear, the horse, the animal amplified that. So I learned very quickly, for the safety of my life, to stay in that loving, very still, beautiful place, and then that's transmitted and reflected back. No matter what else is going on.
Okay, thank you very much for your report. We greatly appreciate it. Kimmery, I see you're here tonight with us. Do you have anything to contribute to this discussion about how we're pulling the minds of man together into one common intent of consciousness?
Hi, everyone. Nice to be here. I think I'll open up and see, what needs to come through. So I'm really enjoying this conversation, and what's present for me right now is love, and a lot of love. And what I'm really present to on a daily basis is not efforting and really just allowing what needs to come into view to appear. I was so looking forward to being on this call this weekend, and so much has gotten put on my plate that I didn't even think, it just didn't even occur to me to schedule and make sure I was on the call. But look what happened. As soon as all the kids were headed out, I walked in the room and there was the call on right there for me. Right, the very next thing I needed was to be on this call with everyone. And there it was. It just appeared. And it's really starting to get that easy. I think that what we're talking about and what the work that we've been doing, it really feels like this net of love and intention has been woven, and we're sort of just, ebbing and flowing in this grid network that we put so much work and time in weaving. And that's really my experience right now. I'm just so grateful, and I hope that you all know how grateful I am. I feel the work. I feel it as I'm ebbing and flowing with you on this call tonight.
Well, you too have that wonderful opportunity to meet so many people of different tribes and races and civil energetic, so to speak. And we appreciate your input on that, because it like I suggested, you can see through the dynamics of how we're all different and what the separate realities that we've created, the commonality of what we're all trying to achieve. And it's not trying, what we are achieving by moving ahead with the clearing work and creating a new reality, a new world reality, and to be able to express constantly the principles of dominion as opposed to the world of domination that we're moving out of. Is that the way you see it?
I have to say, I definitely see it that way, and each person's experience, like you were speaking about earlier with Rich and all the things that he's experiencing, and Yvonne, and everyone who shares their stories contributes to this grid. And what I'm finding out is happening is, for a very long time, our grid was spied on, and there were nefarious people who were working toward the detriment. And in these last few years, as more of this group meditation and group mind thinking and work has been being done with such intention, I feel we fired the grids up with so much light that what's happening now is we have guardians in the grid. I know that I wake up in the middle of the night working with all of you. I mean, I'm seeing faces. I know I'm working in the grid with all of you. And so what's happening is, not only are we all becoming one, but some of us, that have different talents that we've remembered over the last few years. I know for me, what's happening is I'm coming into view now with the ability to connect the dots together. And there are people that need some dots connected before they can move forward in their next piece. And what's happening is, we're doing the work in the grids, in the dream space, and then it manifests in the real time, which for me is starting to turn into, my dream work is real time, and the surface, this 3D surface that we're living on, almost is starting to feel a little bit more like a illusionary time space, because we've had to be cloaked for so long, and we've had to keep sacred and sort of protected the truth of the work that we've been doing, that I think we've even been kind of cloaked to ourselves. And I feel that there is this space, a Garthan space, this inner earth space, this inner heart space that is surfacing, that I feel is becoming more of my reality. I'm able to see through the Maya, as they call it. Mm-hmm. That intercepted stream of information designed to, let's just say, keep the pacifier in the mouth of the baby while you're getting the bottle ready, and as we are gliding through this transition, our energy work is, we're like the guardian light grid workers, and that's the best I can, explain it.
Well, that's exactly right on, because of our contact with the guardian light workers that we call the galactic flow that comes into us. When those frequencies of sound come in, they have a profound effect not only on us within the group here that's consciously interacting, but everyone out in the radio land that hears these frequencies, it also affects them. And on a deep inner level of consciousness that does shift our DNA, it does help us to grow higher in consciousness. And Rachel, are you with us here this evening?
Yes, I am. Okay,
I couldn't see your icon. There you are. We have a little time left. Could you get your bowl, and we'll see if we can attract the galactic flow to come into us, and I can hear it now.
Sure. Here we go.
And if we have to carry on past our 7 o'clock hour, we'll do it.
Okay.
This is the heartbeat of unconditional love flowing from the galactic center to us. attention on any individual shark in your body, and you'll feel the flows clearing where you have your point of attention. you need healing, focus your point of attention on what needs to be healed in your system. Focus now on opening your psychic intuitive channels to the psychic center. Those of you who want to be healers, open your healing channels. And you feel your hands get hot as the polarity flows come through your system and into your hands. send that energy through your hands to anyone you want to heal or for self-healing. Vibration frequencies be lifted beyond the third dimension into the fourth dimension. The fourth dimension of time and space resonating with the fifth dimension of dominion and higher God force consciousness. And this is what we have to learn before we'll be allowed out into the cosmos. Lift yourselves upward, free yourselves, free of everything that you acknowledge as being human in yourself. Let it go. Talked about how your thoughts create your reality. Now let your thoughts, your desire and will lift you into a higher reality. become one with the light beings, the living light. Transformation is happening now. Let the light of transformation wash down through your systems, clearing all earth-mind attachments, programs, limitations. As above, so below. Feel the polarity balance. extend your clarity out through the grid of human consciousness, through the radio grid, through the computer grid, through the web, and around the world. Directing the light into every human consciousness on earth. Now we extend dominion, our dominion, over every living creature on earth that has DNA. We extend our living consciousness and the responsibility as caretakers for earth, and all living things. In dominion. And we extend a wave of unconditional love around the earth to touch the heart, the 0 point of every living human. To manifest through our word and the power of intent the new world reality. The new world reality of dominion. And this resonates with the 0 point of Earth, living Earth. And living Earth responds by clearing, releasing the old patterns and forms held in Earth mind that limit consciousness. Everything of the last 26,000 years of domination is being cleared and released. Unified in the brotherhood of man. Our heart chakras are open, expressing, resonating unconditional love. Foreheads are open to the photon belt and the photon energy. We focus that through our hearts to add power to the unconditional love we are expressing around the world now. And that power shall neither diminish or dwindle until we come into our own perfection as one human consciousness.
We are sisters and brothers of humankind.
We are creating the new reality. So each of you express your intent as how you see the new reality. Joan, how do you see the new reality?
This is Catherine, and I see all thought going through the heart before it comes out your mouth.
Perfect. Dent, how do you see the new reality, the new world order?
See truth, justice for everyone. I see the unity, abundance for all people. I don't know what else to say.
Susan, how do you see the New World Order?
I see us, everyone, when they see each other, reaching out in love and joy, embracing ourselves, embracing each other, and extending our hands to everyone, all the creatures of the world.
Teresa?
I see our new world reality in joy of creation without judgment, with playfulness and delight and abundance in every way.
Rachel?
I see us living in our sacred heart space of such unconditional love, and we see the divine presence in all life everywhere, and there's a reverence and a grace where tears literally are dripping from our eyes of such gratitude and just incredible creativity that's coming of the divine. And we live in that spark, that divine spark.
Mike?
I'm just going to say oneness and light.
Rich?
I just said, terrible light.
Marilyn?
The joy of expressing ourselves, finding who we are, and doing what we love and loving what we do, bringing that forward and encouraging everyone else to being themselves and have fun with it.
Gary?
I don't know. It's beyond words. I can't express it.
Kimmery? Yvonne?
Each one sharing their gifts so that no money is needed and the currency will be love.
Dent, can you share with us now? We couldn't hear you before.
Yeah, Frank, I see it as total and honest, true equality for all people, abundance for everyone, and I really like the currency of love and everyone sharing whatever gifts they have, that Yvonne said. And I think that the world has to come together in unity and in oneness, and I That's it.
Kimmery?
I just wanted to say aho to what everyone has said. Also, all of the children who have dreamt the dreams. I want to say aho to all of our four-leggeds, two-leggeds, wingeds, all the living souls and systems on this planet. I just embrace and I see all of the effervescence and iridescence of all of our colors uniting. I see the dance and I see the reunion. And so it is.
JP?
Oh, to all that. Unity consciousness. Unity, but individual mind. Abundance and manifestation. Basically, we are unlimited. That's all there is to it. We're unlimited. We can make whatever we want. So, whatever you like, if you like Danish pastries every morning, you get Danish pastries every morning. That's what you are, you can make the world. You don't have to just moan about it. You can make a new world. And that, you say new world order, which is, on talk radio, it's a bit of a bad term for it. But you're talking about a world order that is renewed. Maybe we new term.
Now world order.
Now world order, yeah.
Now world reality.
World reality is expression. I'm sorry if I said order. All right, folks, we're doing an incredible healing tonight. So I'd like for you just to continue to express yourselves. We won't do any personal healings because what we've done is heal everyone. Joan?
Well, my heart is glowing. I feel harmony. And in the true vibration of harmony, I see everyone getting healthy. I see a glow of health. I'm feeling great harmony.
It's like everybody likes themselves.
Higher vibration, smiles, and health follows.
Frank, it's Jackie. I really would love nothing more than to see this whole world become united and be full of harmony and love for one another. No prejudice based on religion or culture or ethnic background or whether you're male or female, or no prejudice whatsoever. Just accepting everybody for who they are and appreciating what they have to bring to the plate of humanity and to offer, and just live in love.
And I want to second what Timmery said about our animal friends and all other life on the planet. All life gets respect, and all life is shared.
Well, that's what it is animals live in dominion, and we need to follow suit.
I'd like to hear Rich tell us again, because we couldn't hear.
Rich, can you share with us? We couldn't hear you well.
I'm sorry. I probably got the volume turned down real low. What was the question again, please?
How do you see the new world reality?
I think that I'm just feeling a really, really strong energy field of love and unity. And like you all mentioned, I think this whole thing about divine oneness, I think that's what that whole frequency was doing for me, was trying to bring me into harmony with everything. Because I'm sitting here, as you were talking, I was thinking of the dolphins, the whales, the animals on the island, the people, and all these different races of people here interacting together. The goal is what we call aloha, which is Pono, which is we all agree to get along together in unconditional love. And that's the vibration that was being sent to us. And that's the vibration that I am trying to restore to this island. We had an incredible event this week. We went to a place, we cleared a heiau out, and we have a lady with us that does goddess blessings. She makes mandalas from flowers, places them on the sand of the beaches, and blesses. And this place that we went to about a week ago, it was 2 days before we had our rain for one day. And after the rain, she came back there after we went back and cleared the land of the souls and did a blessing. She came back and built a mandala. Within about 3 days, the vegetation grew at least 2 to 3 feet. And it was filled with butterflies and birds. And it was most incredible. She just sent me pictures of it. So this whole essence of what we're trying to accomplish can be accomplished here on Earth in small amounts in areas. And every one of us has our own unique space. We need to be working on our own space, clearing our land, clearing our city, clearing our home. And
clearing ourselves.
Yeah, well, we have to start with that first. After we clear ourselves and we clear the land, help our neighbors come into unity with each other, and it goes on and on and on. So that's what I was thinking. This really helped me because they were speaking to me about continue to use this energy to cross these souls over to bring healing. So we're all doing the same work, we're just different places.
It almost doesn't feel like work any longer because it's done with such love and great joy.
I think it's play myself. I look at it as play, not work.
We're going to have to find a new word. My heart is just frequency changing. It's just expounding and just wow. I thank you all for partaking and being a part of this. Through all of your growth, my growth was unbelievable. And I thank you all very much for being the loves that you are and allowing it out for me to see and dance in the joy. Thank you all so much.
Rub your hands together. Hold them about 8 inches apart. Pull the galactic flow down through the back of your head, out your hands. And feel this ball of energy growing between your hands now. Move your hands back and forth a little and you can just feel the light growing between your hands. Now this is a ball of total unconditional love. And that is the life force that generates and maintains all life on Earth. So I want to do with all of you now and everyone listening like a group hug where we extend our hands and our arms around each and everyone who's listening to our words tonight. And between all of us is the living earth. So let's give a group hug of unconditional love to the earth. And every living creature on earth. That every living creature can have opportunity and abundance to experience its life, no matter what its choice is of living. Through its life cycles as set up and created by nature to create the incredible variation of life that we have in this beautiful little earth of ours, this unique world of ours. Now, as you hug the world and hug all living creatures, feel your hearts merge and become one with the 0 point of all living creatures, that spirit center in every living creature's heart. And you know what God feels as He experiences through us this that He has created. And I feel in this unified field a direct resonance with the flows of the galactic center that we're coming into us. And we extend ourselves as the ambassadors of the living earth. Extend your awareness to the galactic center and all living humanoid creatures that we call the galactic beings, or any other life form, and express our love for them, and to let you know that we come in peace, that we've done our time on the prison planet, that we're released now, and none of the universe has any need for any fear of earth in any form. And we extend our awareness to the active beings that come and go in the UFOs to please come to us in peace with your knowledge, and your gifts in turn will give our gifts back to you, any that we have that can benefit you in the brotherhood of life. And so it is. Rachel, can you give us a tone expressing how we feel?
Okay. Hale, hale, oh my, hale, hale, no more nami. Jerusalem, toi, homo, yaramo, 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 lehaleo, haonyemom, yahamamom.
In the language of light and love, we come.
Ijalamokotwa kisalamotori. Jelema andwari da kohole shalamakuturi shale adwakima. Indiri adwakishe ajwakima. Indiria jale atwa elea atwa. Himokahale jari atwa kilia. Ajelia atwa kimake atwa kinya. Noria amakutari asamea.
And we heard their response.
My love exactly. The joy and grace of this feeling place that we are all within. My wish for you is to sleep and walk, sharing it with all that you see. Thank you.
My heart is open and glowing tonight. I don't think I'll ever get to sleep.
Just lie there and listen to the galactics.
Well, as Rich was speaking of the woman who does the mandalas, that's what we can do tonight when you're not sleeping or you're at night school, is go place love mandalas throughout the world and into people's hearts if necessary.
For everyone listening who wanted healing tonight, we place a mandala of healing and love that is with you now and goes forth, knowing that it is done.
Universal Mind Radio would like to thank all of our listeners this evening. If you would like to learn more about Frank Jordan, please visit his website, www.psytronics.com, psi-tronics.com. Thank you very much for listening.